Jin drops cryptic hint. Will Amsterdam become the final stage for a BTS reunion? And a last shocking surprise. When Jin paused mid-sentence and looked out over the crowd in Amsterdam with a solemn expression, what followed was not just another farewell. It may have been a coded signal for something far more momentous. A final BTS reunion, cloaked beneath the glittering lights of his solo concert stage. Why Amsterdam? Why now? And why did Jin's words carry a weight that echoed far beyond the arena? Fans are now piecing together a puzzle that could point to the most unexpected climax in BTS history. The atmosphere at the Amsterdam stop of Jin's Seokjin tour was already saturated with emotion. It was his first major overseas performance following his military discharge, and the audience expected nostalgia, gratitude, and energy. Instead, what they received was something eerily strategic, a carefully planted sequence of comments, glances, and gestures that many believe were veiled messages about BTS's future. It is not uncommon for Jin to be cryptic, but the tone he carried on stage in Amsterdam was different. Controlled, deliberate, and emotionally charged. Was this the beginning of something, or the end of everything? The most talked about moment of the night was not a high note or an encore, but a chilling pause. Jin, known for his humor and brightness, suddenly grew serious as he spoke. He said only a few words. This stage might not be just mine anymore. The arena went silent. Fans froze. There were no screams, just the weight of confusion and realization setting in. That phrase, vague yet powerfully suggestive, set social media ablaze within minutes. Could he be referring to the return of the rest of BTS? Could Amsterdam be the location where their paths cross again? One last time? Historically, BTS reunions have never been teased so directly, let alone during a solo concert. Each member's activities have been tightly managed, with minimal overlap. However, Jin's Amsterdam statement felt unscripted, or at least intentionally left ambiguous. This was no accidental slip. It was a loaded statement, and fans know Jin well enough to recognize when he is hinting at something bigger than himself. Adding to the mystery, shortly before the concert, airport sightings and rumors suggested unusual movement from certain BTS members. Was Amsterdam chosen not just for its size or scenery, but because it was neutral ground for a surprise convergence? There's more. During the concert's visual interludes, eagle-eyed fans noted a series of symbolic motifs flashing behind Jin. 7 stars slowly aligning, then fading into a single burst of light, a calendar turning to the number 7 and stopping, the word epilogue briefly flickering and then glitching out. None of these can be considered coincidences. The use of number 7, an obvious nod to BTS's 7 members, was far too deliberate. The epilogue motif is even more haunting, suggesting not just a closing chapter for Jin's tour, but perhaps the conclusion of an era. Adding further speculation, several fans reported that Jin's usual setlist was changed for Amsterdam. The song Spring Day, long rumored to be about separation and longing among BTS members, was added as a last-minute surprise. The version performed was slower, stripped back, and visibly difficult for Jin to finish, without his voice breaking. In a moment that cannot be forgotten, he looked into the crowd, eyes welling, and whispered, "You'll understand soon." That statement alone could be dismissed, until one realizes how Jin has previously dropped similar clues before major BTS milestones. Why Amsterdam? That question lingers like smoke. Unlike Seoul or Tokyo or London, Amsterdam holds no obvious ties to BTS's legacy, but its timing is suspicious. Jin's Amsterdam concert lands just before a window in which several other BTS members, most notably Jungkook and J-Hope, have been rumored to be planning unspecified international appearances. Could they all converge in one city, under one roof, to mark a temporary reunion before scattering again? And if so, why frame it as a final stage? What does Jin mean when he says, "This stage might not be just mine anymore"? Behind the scenes, the silence from HYB has been deafening. No formal statements have been made, which only fuels more theories. The lack of denial is being interpreted by some as confirmation. Fans who have followed BTS long enough know this pattern well. When silence grows, something seismic brews. Jin's concert wasn't just a performance. It was a broadcast of layered messages, symbolic choices, and timed emotion. There is no clearer signal than this. Something is being orchestrated, and Amsterdam is the epicenter. Then, there is the matter of the final encore. Traditionally, Jin closes his solo concerts with a lighthearted or humorous song, leaving fans smiling. Not this time. The final number was Moon, but it was sung with a tone of finality and deep mourning. "I'll be your moon," he sang, looking out toward the empty sections of the arena with noticeable distance in his gaze. It no longer sounded like a love song, it sounded like a goodbye. But to whom? To ARMY? To his solo stage? Or to the separation that has defined BTS in recent years? The most dramatic moment, however, came after the lights dimmed. As fans prepared to leave, a final message appeared on the screen in soft white letters. "Remember Amsterdam." No explanation. No context. Just those two words. They have since trended globally and sparked hundreds of interpretations. Does it mean this city will host something fans are not yet prepared for? A final group performance? A private documentary moment? Or worse, does it signify a closing chapter? It is worth considering the emotional toll behind this. Jin has often taken on the burden of being the emotional core of BTS, publicly maintaining humor and strength while internally carrying the weight of leadership and separation. His choice to use a global stage like Amsterdam to voice something so cryptic and perhaps so final reveals the magnitude of what's coming. He could have said it anywhere, but he waited. He waited until this concert. That can't be dismissed. This may not be the first time BTS members have hinted at reunification or closure, but this is certainly the most pointed. The clues are aligned, the signs are flashing, and the silence from all parties grows more intentional by the hour. Amsterdam was never just another concert. It was a crossroads, and Jin, ever the quiet strategist, stood at the center, offering a single breadcrumb for fans to follow. If this was the last stage before everything changes, the message was clear. Nothing will ever be the same again. The real question now is, who else was watching in the wings? Will Amsterdam be remembered not just as a city of music, but as the place where the curtain fell on one era and silently rose on another? Is BTS about to reunite, not with fanfare, but with silent agreement, shrouded in metaphor, orchestrated by Jin? But perhaps the most unnerving aspect of all this is the precision of timing. Jin's Amsterdam concert didn't arrive in isolation. It landed at the precise midpoint of a volatile period in BTS's history. With enlistments overlapping, solo careers branching in unpredictable directions, and growing global attention on the group's long-term fate, any gesture, no matter how subtle, can tip the balance of speculation. That is why what Jin did cannot be dismissed as coincidence. Too much lined up. Too many elements were left deliberately unexplained. In the days leading up to Amsterdam, fan communities had already begun detecting irregular patterns, sudden blackouts in schedule updates, members going radio silent on social media, and ambiguous posts that reference stars, reunions, and memories. All of these fragments, isolated, mean little, but in the context of Jin's staged silence, they become heavy with meaning. Even the fan project banners, normally celebratory in tone, shifted toward messages of longing, farewell, and anticipation. How could so many people around the world begin to feel the same tremor unless something was, indeed, coming? Furthermore, industry insiders, usually quick to debunk rumors, have maintained an eerie quiet. No one close to BTS has commented publicly on the Amsterdam performance. No photos have emerged of backstage interactions. Even Jin himself posted only a vague message after the show. "Tonight was unforgettable. You'll understand. Maybe not now, but later." Again, the ambiguity is intentional. It suggests orchestration. It suggests that Amsterdam was not simply a tour stop, it was a signal. And still, that message, "Remember Amsterdam," burns into the consciousness of millions. It has taken on a life of its own, appearing in edited fan videos, fan art, and speculative analysis threads. Some believe it is tied to an upcoming short film or group reveal. Others think it might be the site for a secret BTS documentary finale, where all members reunite one final time before going fully separate ways. Whatever it is, it clearly carries emotional weight. Jin didn't ask fans to celebrate Amsterdam. He asked them to remember it. That word, chosen deliberately, implies finality, significance, and legacy. Many now suspect that Jin's EP tour, despite being a solo journey, was never just about his own return to the stage. It may have been a device, an emotionally framed path to transition ARMY from individual appreciation back to collective remembrance. The era of solo stages might be nearing its end. And if Amsterdam marks that threshold, it will be remembered not just as a concert, but as a farewell ceremony cloaked in mystery. The tears, the symbols, the silence, they all point in one direction. BTS, as the world once knew them, may not return in the same form again. But in Amsterdam, for a brief, charged moment, Jin cracked open